Welcome. I'm Nathan Alberg with the Illinois Farmling Program of the Land Connection, and I'm here with Erica Peters, who's also with our Farmling Program, and we are joined by Silas Berkson, the Client Success Manager for CommonGround, a for-profit company. And the lay of the land videos are intended to just have some good conversations with people who are somehow involved in the ag industry and farmland access and have some good insights and ideas to share with us. And so we're really happy to have Silas with us today. Silas, before we have you start talking about CommonGround itself, can you share a little bit about your background and how you got interested in farming and why you enjoy this work so much?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I grew up in Eastern Iowa. And so growing up, I was surrounded by agriculture, whether that be friends of mine and my families who were working farm ground or friends of mine who were involved in 4-H. And so it was early that I grew an appreciation for the ag community. And I ended up going to the University of Iowa in Iowa City and I jumped around for a few years doing jobs, but ultimately was lucky enough to come across this company and get involved with this ag community again.
Thank you for the introduction. Could you tell us just a little bit about Common Ground and how it began, the mission behind it, and what kind of services you offer?
Sure thing. So the Common Ground the idea for Common Ground came about um, after our one of our founders, Chris Bauman, had purchased a hobby farm. And this was back in around 2016, and this was in central Illinois, where Chris is from. This farm had some timber on it, had some tillable acres. And when he bought the farm, he said, okay, well, I need to get a farmer for this. And so he went to a neighbor and he said, yeah, I'll farm it. He ended up in a 50-50 agreement with this neighbor, which is where the tenant and the landowner are splitting costs for inputs and they're splitting profits on the crop. And, Chris did not have a background in farming. He grew up around farming like I did, but that first year he's getting sent fertilizer bills and seed bills and kind of trying to make sense of it. I think ultimately after the first year, it's like, okay, I made this. This is a lot trying to keep track of these bills. And went to his farmer for the next year and said, hey, like, can you just shoot me a straight cash rent offer for the lease? Just $1 per acre figure. It's going to make our lives easier here.
Mm.
And his farmer said, hey, like, I'll give you $150 an acre, something like and Chris, he's an entrepreneur. He's a curious guy, and he went and talked to some other guys, some farmers he grew up with, and they were like, "Hey, I'd give you 175. I'd give you $200 an acre." So this made Chris more curious about how they're coming to these numbers, um, which started him off doing some research and just trying to understand the ground better and what goes into
Mm.
farming. And so he ended up getting doing a GPS of his farm. He found out he actually had a couple more acres than he knew he had. He pulled soil samples on the farm and just tried making sense. So then, he took all this information back to his original farmer, and he's like, "Okay, I'm still going to give you $150 an acre." So he's like, "Okay, this is interesting. A lot of people must be going through this. It feels like a lot of fragmented information." And like this could be a more transparent process. So that's sort of where the seed was born. Ultimately, Chris got together with another one of our co-founders, Brad Belzer, who worked in the ag ground space in real estate, and they said, "Hey, let's try building something that makes this process of farmland leasing more transparent. Let's help farmers find opportunities to lease ground, and let's help landowners understand what their farmland is worth and why."
Great. And what would you say is your average operation size and farmers, landowners that you work with Common Ground?
It's certainly a wide array. We have people on the platform with a couple hundred acres that are, strictly leasing the ground, all the way up to, a couple thousand, whether that be some owned and some leased. And yeah, I kind of skipped a little bit on where we are today and kind of what the platform looks like. So out of this idea of creating this transparent marketplace, we ended up building a website that's formerly was cashrent.com, just based off that cash rent agreement. We're now CommonGround, and we operate a dual-sided marketplace that lets a landowner put up a piece of ground, say, "Hey, I'm interested in leasing this," and we make sure that every farmer in their community has the opportunity to submit interest on that ground.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay. So if you had a farmer who signed up and they be logged in, if a leasing opportunity came up in their geography, they would get notified, correct? Is that how it works?
Correct. Yep. We're going to instantly notify them just based on where that farm is. Um, and if you talk to farmers today, everyone's interested in finding ground. Um, it's a competitive thing. Maybe before something like Common Ground, people are looking in the newspaper, or really you just might, you might have one neighbor that you ask. But like our example with Chris, you might get several different offers. Um, but with Common Ground, you're able to see everyone who's interested and find the best fit tenant for you.
So if you're a landowner, how do you set up a bidding situation through Common Ground?
Yeah, so if you go to the website, we have a tool where you can find your farm,
Yep.
map out your farm, and through doing that, we're gonna pull the soil data on that farm. So, in Illinois, it's going to be based on PI or the productivity index. If you're in other states, they're going to use different metrics. But once you map out that farm, we would get in touch with you as a landowner and say, hey, who are you looking for? You want who are you looking for in an operator? We're going to try to describe that in the listing, sort of expectations of the lease.
Mm.
Um, and then we can publish that. And once that's up, we usually put it up for a few weeks, enough time to make sure every farmer knows about it, can go visit the farm, can submit questions. Um, and during that time period, we'll collect bids. And so
Mm.
these bids is whatever the farmer would be interested in paying. And what's cool about using the website is high bid does not automatically win on Common Ground and rarely does. Um,
Mm.
so landowners are able to say, hey, this guy bid, $10 less per acre for my farm, but based on the information that he submitted, and I was able to have a phone conversation, this is the guy that I want to go with. He lives right by the farm. He's got good references from other landlords, and so on.
Nice. So I remember talking with you and I think some of your other team that your team is available to those farmland owners for sort of consultations and advice and guidance. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Um, so there's a wide array of landowners who, some have like a deep connection in history to farming. Um, whether that's a current farmer, retiring farmer, transitioning out of
Mm.
full-time farming, or you have someone who just inherited farm ground and is not close to it. And they have a lot of questions. How do you do this?
Mm.
What should be in a lease? What should I be asking? And so we can, consult there with just our experience of working on hundreds of these. Um, another big part is just, hey, what should I even expect in terms of rent from a farmer? And so we do have a tool on Common Ground as well that we call a cash rent estimate. And this uses the farm that we map out and the soil information, um, the local dynamics of the market, and we can kind of give a range. That can be very helpful to someone who's completely unfamiliar with the territory as well.
Your teammates say that you're sort of essentially a cash rent estimating wizard. From what I remember, like you can get
We
within $5 or so of a really competitive rate.
we tend to be pretty dang close. Especially in the regions where we do a lot of business. I mean, a
Mm.
lot throughout Iowa, Illinois, the Corn Belt, sometimes freakishly close. But ultimately, we can give this estimate tool just to give a rough range, but ultimately, it's always going to be the market that decides because we're just opening it up to everyone.
Yep,
So you're only going to get offers of what people are actually willing to pay in your area.
got it. Um, Erica, do you have another question? It's something you've said there that's piqued my interest, and I'm trying to articulate my question.
Sure, yeah, yeah. You mentioned that a lot of the times the highest bid isn't chosen. Could you share any examples that could illustrate that? With it, I
Mm.
think we had mentioned before, maybe beginning farmers being able to get an opportunity based on their experience and a landowner wanting to make an opportunity for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our goal is, bringing about facilitating a long-term relationship between a tenant and a landowner. And um, that means, finding what this landowner is looking for. Several guys, they say, hey, I want to help a young guy who's just starting out farming pick up some acres. They know how difficult it is. It's a relationship industry, especially in that way of finding new opportunities. And so we have people that say, "Hey, I'd like to go with this young guy." We have landowners who are really interested in just making sure the farm is farmed in a sustainable way. So they say, "Hey, I know this guy does minimal till or no till. This guy's going to use cover crops. I've got references on this
Mm.
guy." And yeah, so
Yeah.
I forget exactly
So
what
I
your
guess,
question was, but yes.
so I think my question was, I think from talking with you and your team, it seems like most of the people, the situations in which this works best, this tool works best, is when it's mostly a conventional farming situation where the landowner essentially wants conventional farming, and there's a lot of conventional farmers who are out there who are willing to kind of bid and try to get that lease. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say our bread and butter has been corn and soybean conventional farming. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, certainly will try to help out anyone who comes with any request and find
Got
the
it.
right operator.
And do you encourage a certain kind of lease? Is it usually cash rent? Is it usually for 3 years, 2 years? How do you normally suggest the template for that going forward?
Yep, so it's going to depend on the landowner's
Mm.
situation, how they're thinking about the farm long term. And I'd say mostly what we do is cash rent deals. Um,
Mm.
it can be a simple, maybe the most simple agreement you can have,
Yep.
where a landowner can say, okay, I'm going to make this much this year. That's going to cover these property taxes and these improvements I want to make on the ground. Versus a flex agreement where there's going to be some variability in that.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, typically a cash rent agreement, and these there's a lot of details that go into a lease, and I would say that's probably one of the biggest benefits we offer
Oh.
to both parties is just to help facilitate a strong, comprehensive lease agreement.
Mm. So you're involved in actually helping them structure the lease a little bit.
At least consulting.
Okay.
We giving examples. We'll give templates of strong lease agreements and talk about these things that come up um, that really can be avoided. We still see a lot of farm ground leased on handshake agreements and verbal
Yep.
leases, which has been really popular in the past. And, we see just all sorts of disputes come up with these, and landowners and farmers not really knowing, how
Mm.
their state handles, disputes. And so we just think, hey, it's best like let's get this all on paper at the start of the lease. It's going to protect everybody, um,
Yep.
bring transparency.
Got it. So I have to ask this question. How does Common Ground get paid for all these services you're providing?
Yes, so Common Ground will get paid a one-time fee once a lease is signed, and that's a 4% fee that's paid by the awarded tenant. So
Oh,
if you are a landowner who puts it up on the site, um, it's going to be free of charge to put up. And, whatever that bid amount, you might get, 200, $250 an acre, whatever that bid goes up to, you're going to be paid that full amount. And a tenant who's bidding on a farm is going to pay a 4% fee on top of that. And so that's calculated in when the farmer is deciding how much to bid, they're going to see
got
what
it.
that site fee would be. So we have instances where landowners say, hey, I'm going to cover the fee for this transaction,
Wow.
in which we'll let the bidders know, or sometimes we have cases where they want to split it half and half.
That's very cool. Have you and your team learned some things that you didn't expect as far as, for example, what are some common patterns in terms of the winning bidders, in terms of the farmers? Because you were saying it's not just price. Like what makes for a successful bidder in terms of their interest, showing interest in a landowner and a landowner wanting to pick them?
Yes. So every farm operation is different. You have different overhead, you have different strategies, which is
Yep.
why we see a sometimes a wide range of offers on a piece of
Mm,
ground to lease. And um, so one of the things we do when we collect bids is we give these farmers an opportunity to share a bit about themselves and about their operations. And we see the farmers who take time to do this. Do have an advantage in being awarded a lease, and it can be as simple as just sharing, "Hey, you know, I'm I'm 25 years old. I live here. I've been farming all my life. I just went to college. I came back
mm,
here. I treat all leased ground as my own. I'm interested in conservation and just selling yourself,
mm,
make someone comfortable and say, hey, this guy's going to take good care of my farm, just by the way he can talk about his operation. So I would say the more information you can give about yourself, the better. Um, Otherwise a landowner just has a name and a dollar figure, and it's not as comforting when you're, putting maybe your biggest asset in the hands of this guy.
absolutely. That's really helpful to hear. We have a profile system on our site for connecting farmers and landowners, and we offer a number of fields where people can share what the kind of information you're talking about. And some people naturally filled it in really well, and some people just kind of gloss over it, or just don't feel comfortable being open about themselves. And I think that can hurt them.
Yeah, absolutely. We really try to stress it right when someone
Mm.
registers to bid or throughout it. It's like, hey, please complete your farmer profile by the time this ends, because the landowner is going to start reviewing these, and
Yes.
it doesn't look great when one bidder, put a lot of time into this and you put none. So
Yep.
Mhm.
yeah.
Is there a busiest time of the year for you guys? I assume there is. It's probably maybe uh, late summer, maybe early fall, kind of when people are
Yeah,
starting to
yeah,
think about.
exactly. Exactly. I think
Mm,
August through late fall, and you kind of then get hit by, harvest season, and we try not to be leasing a ton of farms when farmers are out in the field
mm,
harvesting because we're just not going to
yep.
have their attention. Um, but it can go even to now. We're leasing some farms. And that kind of comes down to lease termination deadlines.
Uh,
And so in the late summer, you're still kind of ahead of, the September, October deadlines in Illinois, Iowa, Indiana,
yep.
where you have an opportunity to to put these up. And
Mm,
yeah, that's another, I would say, like big
yeah,
lesson learned when it comes to like facilitating lease agreements is we run into this quite a bit, where landowners just don't know when they can lease ground to a farmer. And you can miss your opportunity by missing a deadline there. And we've
yeah,
had that happen with both landowners and farmers. And farmers have
really.
the termination deadline, and they're locked into a lease that they don't want to be in.
Oh, ooh, ouch.
It's just tough
Is
to
it?
see, and it's one of those things that can be avoided with a written lease agreement.
Got it. So what's the funnest part of your job?
Funnest part, I would say, man, there's several. It's fun to get up it's fun to get up a farm, post it. Sometimes we have bids in 5 minutes within posting a
Holy
farm.
cow.
That's really fun, and it's fun to see a landowner like, oh my gosh, I had no clue. Uh, I would say it's fun. We had a deal with an older woman years ago whose husband had died, who was farming, and they had a few hundred acres, and this was really her only income. And
Oh,
that lease had not been renegotiated in over a decade, a long time. I think she was getting, around 225 an acre for some very prime farm ground.
ooh,
And her daughter got involved and wanted to help her lease it out. They got in contact with us, and we ended up putting that up. And there was just so much interest in this ground. I think 9 or 10 different farmers bidding on this.
wow.
She ended up getting, like $450 an acre
Holy
on that
cow.
few hundred acres, which was life changing. And it was
Changing.
Absolutely.
very fun to
Wow.
see. And we connected them with who seemed like a great tenant and who is still working the ground today. That was a few
Oh,
years ago,
nice.
but yeah, but that's fun to
That's
see.
awesome. That's a great feeling. That's awesome. Erica, do you have any other questions?
I maybe talk a little bit about the area that you cover. I know you said you go beyond Illinois. What kind of region does Common Ground
Yeah,
cover?
good question.
And if there's any like spots in Illinois where you see more people that you work with.
Yeah, so our we started in central Illinois, which is where Chris Bauman and Brad Belzer are from, two of our founders. And we do a lot of business throughout the I-states, the Corn Belt, a lot there. But what we found is people from all across the U.S. reach out and ask for help navigating this. I think maybe like 27 states we've helped lease ground in, from California, like a tomato farm, to helping out in Florida with citrus farm. But
Wow.
so yeah, and that's kind of fun too when something completely new comes
Mm.
about, and it's like I know nothing about tomato farms, so like I better read up so I can be competent here. But yeah, our bread
Awesome.
and butter is going to be corn and soybean farms throughout the Midwest.
It sounds like from looking at your site, you also do hunting leases as well.
Yes, and that was born out of creating the website first for ag ground, and then we had landowners saying, "Hey, could you do this same thing for hunting ground?" And the
Mm,
system was kind of built in a way that easily helped facilitate that
mm.
as well, and we could see really strong results there as well. Hunting, another area where hunters are really eager to get their hands on some private hunting ground.
Yeah. What's speaking of money and things, like how much is a normal or average hunting lease for land? I mean, there's got to be so many variables. It must be hard to come up with an average number, but like what's the market for hunting leases?
Yes. So depending on what you're hunting, it's
Okay.
gonna vary. I'd say the biggest interest we get is people, whitetail deer hunting, who want private ground. That's going to bring the highest dollar where it's an exclusive lease.
Got it.
So you do have outfitters out there that are maybe leasing for, a week at a time or guided hunts, but we see the highest dollar in private exclusive leases, and that can go from, you know, 25, $30 an acre to like 80, $100 an acre for like a really well managed farm with a nice mix of timber and crop. So,
Wow. So the acreage figure would be for both the timber and the crop, like just the total property?
yep, yep. Yeah, it's for the total property because,
Uh,
they do want like a food source on the ground, so it
right.
looks good when it's some mixed
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. So here's my last question. If Erica has a last question too, that'd be great. Are you seeing any trends unfolding as far as your work? Because you started out with a different name, a different website. You've grown into hunting. You're starting to expand geographically. What else is changing and kind of developing for you guys?
Yeah. Um, so trends right now, I mean, it's an interesting time to be an ag, just with what's going on in the commodity markets.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of negotiation happen. Unfortunately, we find circumstances where, farmers are having to walk away from farms,
Really?
in some cases right now, just because they weren't able to negotiate, and it's just not penciling out. Um, we're also, at the same time, we're seeing in some states property taxes rising. So, landowners want to cover those, and
Hmm.
just a lot of factors like leading to the need to negotiate and like communicate between tenants and landlords, which is, what we're really trying to help make easy.
That's really interesting because I think there's a lot of investors who are buying farmland just assuming that the price of land is always going to go up and lease revenue is going to be either stable or keep going up. And that's not necessarily the case.
Yep, yep. No, certainly. So we're along for the ride here, and hopefully some more stability and sense of comfort
Yeah.
for long-term planning coming to farmers here in short order.
Yeah. Erica, do you have any last questions?
I don't think so. I can't think of anything. Anything else that you wanted to add, Silas, that we missed?
Um, I don't think so, but I'm
Mhm.
happy to answer questions if anyone has them. You can see our website on commonground.io. And if anyone has a question, they can reach me at Silas, at commonground.io. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Really enjoyed the interview. Thank you so much.